Hi, this is the Coaching Game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and tonight my guest is Doretta Gadsden. Welcome, Doretta Gadsden.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you. I had Doretta on one of my radio shows. I just think she has such a fascinating story, and we're going to get into all that. First, let me just tell you a little bit about the Coaching Game. The Coaching Game is based on a marvelous tool that was created in Israel. And part of the game is 65 cards, and each card has a corresponding story, quotes, and coaching questions. And Doretta has bravely tackled the fear card. This is a scary card, looking as well as, but she said, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I want to tell people about. So, Doretta, first tell us what you're doing right now.
Well, I'm a registered nurse. I'm a visiting nurse in New York City, and I'm a certified life coach, and I help people living with life-changing diagnoses, primarily women.
Wow. Okay. As you can see, the name of her website is Women Will Bloom. So I think it's okay. Tell us how you got here. It's a fascinating story. How'd you get here?
How I met you?
How did we meet?
Yes, I met you at IPEC,
right?
My coaching school.
Anyone who watches this knows that's my alma mater, and that's where I got my coach training. And
I'm a registered nurse, like I said, and I wanted to go into coaching to delve a little deeper with people. I wanted to help them to, I could go so far with nursing, and I wanted to help women go a little deeper with the fear. I know when women or anyone is diagnosed with a life-changing diagnosis, illness, however you want to package it, you could go into fear and indecision and not want to move or not be able to move. And I wanted to guide people through that. I was diagnosed with AIDS in 1993, and I was in shock for a while. And I had someone guide me. And from that moment on, I was already a nurse, but I wanted to do with some other women what she did for me, because she guided me just by providing information. Not nothing huge, but it was huge. The information she gave me empowered me, and I never thought AIDS never was a monster to me, or never an elephant in the room, because of her. And I was like, that's what I want to do for another person.
You gotta call her out.
Yes, and I don't know who she is.
Oh no, can you believe it? All right, just remember, any kindness you give to a stranger could totally change their life. Because in '93, that was when the pandemic was surging, and AIDS was a death sentence.
It was.
So what did this woman tell you to make you say, you know what, not me?
Well, what she really did, the moment she told me, first of all, I just want to give you a little snippet of how she became my counselor. She was the head of this clinic that I went to, and something in me when I went that morning knew.
You already knew
that I was positive, and I also knew something.
What made you take the test?
I had just become a nurse. I worked on an AIDS unit with 6 patients, and I thought I would save the world. My love was just going to heal them of this. And one day, the supervisor on the unit came to us and said, all the new nurses have to be test HIV for the HIV. And in that moment, because I was an IV drug user 10 years prior, it was new. I was like, this is it. This is it. But in part of me was like, I've traveled and don't shoot drugs anymore. It's not going to happen. But another part of me was like, it's a possibility. And so that's how I was diagnosed. And when I went to the clinic, initially there was a young man that gave me my test, and he was supposed to give me the results as well. But I just felt like he couldn't support me if he told me that I was positive. In my gut, my intuition told me, ask that woman, and she was up like on a loft almost in the clinic. And I said, I want her. And he was like, she doesn't do it. She's the director of the program. I was like, and if she doesn't, I'm walking out with no results. So you get her to do it, or I won't do it. And so when she came to the room, she had an attitude. Like, are you serious?
I don't do this.
I don't do this. And so she said, I asked her, I said, could you please give me a moment to take a deep breath? And I remember sitting, and she was sitting kind of where you are. And I was like, And before I could get my hand back to my chest, she said, "You're positive, but you knew that, right?" And that's exactly how she said it. Because I had been an IV drug abuser, I had done many things on the checklist. The only thing I wasn't was a gay white male.
Right.
Everything on the list, I had it.
Everything else you had covered, yes.
But I think the shock on my face, because when she told me, it's like my brain started, my life just started going in front of me. Like I know this is not happening. I just graduated nursing school. I got my life together 10 years ago. What is happening?
How can this be?
And she started talking in a whole different tone. And she said, "Doretta, I know what's going through your mind. Just take a deep breath. Think of where you've come from. You've overcome drug addiction. You overcome incest. You know, because she had my history there. What if you could think outside the box and think that you didn't have to? What if you could see AIDS in a different light, HIV in a different light, and not see the people that you?" And she just kept talking. I heard her through a tunnel.
I'm sure.
I heard her, and she kept talking, and she kept bringing me back. Because as she was talking, I was thinking, yeah, I did do that, and I did overcome. And she just kept talking. And by the time she finished, I had all this information, and I was ready. Not saying I never got sick, I was never afraid, but I always felt like, okay, this is a hurdle. Because I've been sick. Years later, I did get really sick, but I always heard her voice. And I always said, okay, I could do this. Not just that, I always had a healthy relationship with God. So with her voice and
the
God,
faith,
and me, please, it was no stopping me. And that's what I am to women, people as a nurse, and that's what I am in my coaching. I just want to be a safe place for them to explore what could happen for them or to them.
There are so many amazing lessons in that story. One is, trust your gut. I don't know why you would choose a woman in a loft with an attitude to give you devastating news, and especially when she walked in with an attitude, I would have said, never mind, but something was telling you, no, this is the person. And then I think that another lesson is just, there's so many ways you can impact a person, so why not do it positively if you can? I'm amazed that one, because you're right, when you get devastating news, you are in a tunnel. It's like you're not listening, and that's why they always tell you bring a friend, bring a relative, because you're not going to hear what's being said. But she kept making you come back to reality. And she just kept handing me different things and showing me scientific evidence I don't have to die. That show me how I live now. I lived almost 10 years after that, but on no medication, just on alternative meds because of her. Wow.
Just believing no matter what my doctor to this day says, all his gray hairs is from me. Because I was doing all kind of herbs and concoctions. And he was like, oh my God. You know.
Take this stuff that we know doesn't work.
Yeah. I'm like, no AZT for me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm still here, and and that's the vessel that I hold for other women as well.
So when did you decide? Because sometimes people don't want to confess that they have cancer, that they have, because people treat them differently immediately. You know, it could be they're too kind to them, or they're just never mind. Take a look at Ebola. You cough now, and you get a seat on the subway. It's like people are really crazy right now. So when did you decide, I'm going public, and this is going to be my mission? And no, it didn't happen in '93 because you were busy dealing with yourself, right? Yeah.
Well, I did tell a lot of people in '93. I did. I tell some coworkers. That's how I found my doctor, because I told another nurse on the unit. I've always been open. I didn't tell everybody, but I've always been somebody to follow my intuition. And this one woman,
obviously,
this one woman on the unit, I felt like I could trust her, and I was like, I'm going to be tested. And so when I was, I told her, and she took me directly to my doctor. I've been with him 22 years. You know, and God knows he's an angel. And very patient. But I started telling more and more people. But a year ago, last World's AIDS Day, I decided to really come out. Because I want this to be my mission, not just about AIDS. I live with AIDS, and I live with COPD, which is obstructive pulmonary disease. Right. Which is because of my smoking. I'm diagnosed with some lung damage. So I want people to know, no matter what a diagnosis is, you could think outside of that box. You could look for alternatives. You could look for the power in us, each of us, that we have to heal ourselves. We have power in our hands, power in our minds, power in the way we eat. It could be fuel, it's healing. We don't just have to it's a diagnosis. Okay, I'm going to die. It's
These
a
are the
diagnosis.
results,
Diagnosis.
and
I have to of let's say diabetes. I have to stay on insulin forever. Or this is AIDS. Oh, I'm never going to have a baby. Or just textbooks. No, you could think outside of that.
Right. Did it have any ramifications on your being a nurse? Did they go, oh, you can't be around patients?
It's never had a ramifications yet.
That's
and I pray to God it never
amazing.
did.
That's amazing.
And I thank God I've never had any harsh treatment of nobody in my family, my father's side or my mother's, any friends. I've never, one person had a funny reaction to me. I'm a member of Toastmasters, and when I gave a speech, God knows how many speeches after she had known me, and she shook my hand like this. After that, I had to laugh. But because when you have support from your family and friends, everything else is like, please.
So that's where you go and find support from somebody. Absolutely. So what advice would you give people? I mean, because we know, I'm just astounded at how many cases of breast cancer there are out there. It's like, really, is this growing, or are we just knowing more about it? So people are getting diagnosed every day with things that aren't cool now. And the Ebola thing, at this point, some people are really petrified. It's like, oh my God, I mean, even though there's only been like 3 or 4 people in the United States, it's like, so what do you tell people when they get a diagnosis? What's the first thing they should do? Breathe, right?
That's what I tell them. But I call it the power of the pause. You just pause.
The pause, gotcha.
You just pause. You just back away almost. Yeah. And just take a breath. And when I say take a breath, I don't mean in that moment. I mean take some days. Pray if you're a person that pray. Write. I mean journal. Those are cornerstones in my life.
Right.
Talk to someone who will support who will listen, not tell you about their fear.
Yeah.
That's so vital.
Yeah.
That's very important. Surround yourself with people who's going to help you, support you in your decisions. When I didn't want to take any medication, nobody pushed me to do it.
Really?
Nobody in my life did.
Okay, so for those of us who are dealing with people who've just been diagnosed, listen. That's what you're telling. That you're saying listen, and they don't want to hear about your fears. They have enough of their own.
No, they don't. And I tell my clients, like, especially let's say my nurse, I shared this with you before. One patient I was working with, and she was diagnosed with cancer. I knew this woman didn't have to die in 20 minutes or 5 years.
Right.
But the sons were all into medicine and chemo, and I was teaching her meditation and tapping and all kind of stuff that has gotten me through. They thought I was crazy. They was like, "Oh God, here she comes." But I made their mother
fire her.
Yeah. Exactly. If it wasn't for their mother, I would have been out the door. But I gave her a different framework. Because some people, chemo was hard, but I'm not saying don't take chemo. I'm not saying don't take meds.
You're not a doctor.
Exactly.
You're not a doctor.
Meds now.
Yeah.
I'm married the two.
Yes.
Before 10 years after being diagnosed, I didn't. But now I'm married the two.
I always said I want a doctor with a foot in both worlds, alternative and traditional.
Exactly.
And let's get the biggest bang for the buck.
And my doctor finally marries the two. Not as much as I want him to. I wanted to
probably just to shut you up.
Yes, I wanted to do something recently. I needed his, I wanted to take all these tests for my alternative doctor. He was like, I'm not doing that. They're scam all this. I'm like, oh God, I thought we got through that 10 years ago. But anyway.
You have to keep pushing.
He's almost there, So,
yeah,
just surround yourself with people who's going to support your progress. I'm not saying you're going to get over fear right away, but baby steps.
And I think, I don't know, and I'm so far talking of, from what I think, but I think, is it not normal that you would have a little grieving period and that it's like you can really go sinking right on down to the bottom, and that's kind of okay?
Yeah, it's kind of most certainly okay. Most certainly okay. I used to have beautiful, thick locks.
Really?
I lost my hair. The quality of my hair disappeared when I really started getting sick because all the medications that I took in the hospital. The quality of my hair never came back. So thank God I have a nice round face. I'm able to wear short hair.
And a nice shaped head, yes.
And many things. I mean, for months I couldn't hardly walk. So you're going
Was
to
this
grieve.
right after the diagnosis? No, okay.
Years later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like almost 10 years later. Like I shared with you, I worked at the World Trade Center. I had a patient across the street from the World Trade Center. So I had probably a lower immune system. And I worked around the World Trade Center. Every day I had to walk through that to get to my patient to give him his medication, which he was HIV positive. And that's how I started taking meds. One day I was so sick in his house that he said, "Doretta, what's wrong?" And I was so sick, and
he just told him.
I was like, "Child, I got AIDS just like you, but I don't take no meds." He was like, "Honey," because he was gay. He was so loving. He was like, "What?" I don't know how he found me a cab, but he got me to the hospital and came to visit me. My husband was like, "How do you get your patient
to take care of you?" You obviously are a people person. Yes,
exactly. But so it's all about just finding your way.
And it's not the thing, and that's the hardest lesson that I ever learned. It's like right now it's not permanent, It's like, and so good. You did 10 years with no symptoms, so basically, and no meds, and then a bump came along, and so did you have to pick yourself up again, or did you just go, you know what, I can do this? I mean, did you have to reevaluate and go, oh, I thought I'd, conquered this and I was going to be symptom-free forever?
No, I just went through that, prayed my way through it, journaled through it, and knew I always talked about and affirmed about that I would get healthy again. My husband, I know, I was at one point, my husband was like, "Listen, I had the insurance policy. I thought you was not going to make it through that round." And we laugh about that today. He was like, "Doretta, I done been through you with a lot. That was one. I wasn't sure." So, but I always would affirm. And some of them was, "Oh God, here she goes. She's going to do this. She's going to do that." And she'll probably be dead in a year because that's how thin I was.
Wow.
But one of the things that helped me during that time was my grandson, Marquise. He came to see me, and he didn't recognize me because I was so thin. I had a scar on my face from a part of the illness, and he didn't recognize me. And I remember when he left, I talked to God. I was like, "Lord, I can't leave with him.
This being the last thing that he sees." Yeah.
And from then on, I always say my love for him had kept me healthy.
Wow.
I set a goal, and that's one thing they could do. When they start feeling better, set a goal, a little goal. My goal was get him to Walt Disney. I said, "God, if you let me get him to Walt Disney, you could do what you want to me after that." I got him to Walt Disney. Then it was like, "Let me get him to private school." Then it was like, and now he's
in college. Yeah, he's going for college. Yeah.
So,
wow.
Life is something. It's what we make it.
It is, and we forget that. I wish I could remember the person who wrote this, but I had just read an article about pain. We're all going to have tragedies. We're all going to have setbacks. We're all going to have devastating things happen to us, losses. But if you make your pain have a purpose, I mean, it's like, we know we're going through it. You're not going to, what was that Jim Morrison song, 9 to 5, nobody here gets out alive, So we know it's just a matter of giving it a purpose, giving it, it's like, okay, as long as I'm going through this, what can I teach others to do? How can I help others do that? And I think that's why I love her story so much, because that's what she's doing. And so so the first thing you would say is pause. That would be the first step. Just pause. And
also
in that pause, what happens?
I think you get clarity. I know you get clarity.
And that means you can pause and go down to the depths of hell and come on back up.
You could pause and go down to the depth, but always remember to keep moving.
Okay. Pause, but keep moving.
You can
I like
pause
that.
and stop.
Well, that would be, pause is, I would think, okay, you're going to sink down, and how do you get yourself up?
You look for the next easy step for yourself, the next thing. And if you're depressed, because a diagnosis could really send you into a depression if you feel like your life is going to change. Let's say you have breast cancer or you have AIDS. AIDS is devastating to some people. I had support, so it wasn't as big to me as it is to some people.
I'm so amazed you had support in '93, first of all.
I had support.
And that you had no ramifications, because that was the time when
it really was.
When nurses were pushing trays of food into the AIDS room with their feet because they were afraid to go in. So I don't know. You just were blessed with a lot of.
I've always said that I was blessed. I was blessed with so many things. So many things. I always say God has given me favor. just the point that I knew to ask for that lady. The point that I knew to tell Joanne, that was the name of the nurse. That got me to Dr. Michael Mullen at Mount Sinai now. Great doctor.
Good call out for him.
It's just so many things has been great for me. You know? Yeah.
So the pause can be a whole bunch of things, but during the pause, it's not a time of total inactivity.
No, it's not.
Keep moving. Even if you read the pamphlet, it's fine.
Or even write, journal your feelings.
Right.
Like I wrote a poem, I don't know it word for word, when I was really sick, and I just asked, like I used to make, because I'm getting ahead of myself, I wrote a poem to the virus, because it was starting to wreck my body. And in so many words it said, you know, you came real quietly and you crept and eased in like you usually do, and you did little annoyances at first, and then you wrecked my body. I don't know how you're going to get out, but until I find a way, can we peacefully coexist?
I love that.
And I'm like, listen, yeah, let's do this. You know. But I wasn't just going to lay down and not
call it. Yeah. Well, okay, so then they would pause, they would keep moving. You recommend journaling, you recommend faith of some kind, and I guess whatever that spirituality is, it doesn't have to be a church and a religion and a hat and whatever else you use, a veil, but it's some kind of faith in something, and I guess that's along the same lines as hope, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like there's got to be a little light there.
And then also after the pausing is finding, because, okay, you have a diagnosis, you want a doctor, but you want someone that's going to hear you.
Right. But I think also before you get the doctor, I think you need to, you know, everybody goes breast cancer, chemo, radiation, done. But you need to, as you say, think outside the box, open your horizons.
Now when I say doctor, I didn't say medical doctor.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go to a medical. I got a medical doctor. Joanne got me to Dr. Mullen. I didn't listen to him for years, but he was there, and I knew if I needed him, he was going to be. He was going to be there.
I know. So I
went to alternatives. I went to Chinese medicine. I went to acupuncture. I did Reiki. I did all alternatives until 2001 World Trade Center. That's when that was almost, God knows, 8-9 years later.
So I'm thinking the first step is pause, and the second step is build your network.
Most certainly.
Build your network. It's like, and let all people come in, you know, not just your doctor.
All positive people.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes. Very good point, yes. All positive people.
Like in my I have a 6-month program. I go through pause. I go through finding a doctor. I go through your choice in your medication. Your choice in your medication, not your doctor. Finding a support system. Redefining who you are now.
Yes, you're a whole different person. You're a whole different person.
You're a whole different person.
Yeah.
Look at me. I locks like a tie. I'm not, you know, a whole different person. And sometimes a better person.
Well, absolutely.
A heart for my patients as a nurse. I have a heart for people in a way. Well, I've always had a big heart. But now it's like when people talk about pain and people talk about isolation, people talk about fear, I know it. So that has given me almost a gift to be a better nurse, a better coach, a better human being.
And I know when devastating things happen, and especially your life is on the line, or the life of someone you love is on the line, every day is precious. It's like, why am I wasting time on negative people, on things that my gut is telling me I shouldn't be doing? And it's a marvelous lesson. So you have it on your website. Let's talk a little bit about that. On your website, you have a whole program where people can actually contact you and go, what do I do?
Right.
And you start them right from the get-go. It's like from day one if they want.
Right. I have individual sessions. I have I do workshops with a group of people, and I do 3 to 6 months. It depends on what they want. It's not a one size fit all. I meet the person where they are.
Okay.
Somebody could be at a place with a good doctor, but they're not somewhere with their family, and that's what they want to work on. Or they may still be in fear, or maybe they may be but they want me to help them make some decisions, or they want to, because it's not me making the decisions, it's me giving them a space
to make the decision.
To make the decision.
Yeah. Or they could be like you, diagnosed 10 years ago and bopping along, and then bang.
Exactly,
You
then
know.
bang.
Okay. Now here's the symptoms. So does fear? We get back to this
Yes.
scary child, very scary child. Does fear serve a purpose? What purpose can you think of for fear?
I think fear could do two things. It could paralyze you, or it could get you to moving after the initial shock.
Exactly, yeah.
Because fear got me to moving in many ways. It got me to moving in my grandson's life because I feared he would not remember me.
Right.
Or not have my love. I knew how much I adored him. He was my only grandchild then, and he was my life.
Yeah.
And I was like, he sees as this skinny lady. I can't leave like this. So my fear of I must find a way to get healthy, and God, me praying was my way, and me getting more into herbs, everything I had done, but doing it differently. Because the World Trade, I think the smoke down there just made me sicker.
Oh, people are still dying
Yes.
from the people who work down there.
Swears my little coffee was like, I don't hear nothing about no COPD. It's from that doggone smoke.
It could be. I mean, there's still three fire people were buried last month, and it was just like, and the ramifications are horrendous. But
so I had to find a way to get myself back up, my weight back up, my energy, because I was thin, I was weak, and I did.
So fear actually can be your friend. It can be a motivator.
It can be a motivator.
There's a philosopher that says, all action stems from negativity. If you're bopping along in paradise, you're not going to move. You'd be crazy to move. But if you fall off that little paradise island, it's like you better start swimming, and so that gets you moving. So in your case, you're taking.
It's almost like a shark after you.
Yes, exactly. It's like, I got to keep running. I got to keep running in front. Yeah, I just have to run a little faster than the shark, or swim a little faster than the shark, I guess. If you get on land, you're cool. But so what you're doing is you're taming fear, or you're using it in a creative sense that will, in a positive sense, is going to get people where they want to go.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, I'm going to encourage everybody, because if you're not dealing with an illness, you probably have someone who is. It's like these are trying times right now. To go and check out Women Will Bloom and see exactly what program Doretta has there. In the we have a minute left.
Okay.
Do you believe how fast that went?
Yes.
So what would you, in 1 minute, what would you tell folks if all is not lost? Well, what's the message?
All is not lost. Just have faith. Believe in the power within you.
You have faith in yourself.
In
you don't have to
yourself.
go to church
That's
to do
right.
that, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And just reach out, get support, surround yourself with positive people that's going to listen to you. That is vital. Please stay away from people that are going to talk negatively. And for people who are caregivers, the same thing. I know you may be in fear. Look for support. I'm one support system, and there's many other out here.
Okay.
Of course, I want you to come to me.
I think, yes, she walks the walk and she talks the talk. I think she's got it all going here, and she's a living example of living positively. Thank you so much, Doretta.
Thank you.
It was
so
a pleasure having you on.
It's a pleasure being here.